Congressman John Conyers is being urged to resign by fellow Democrats, including members of the Congressional Black Caucus, who met with him yesterday. Late last night, CBC Chairman Congressman Cedric Richmond released a statement which reads in part, "Today I met with John and we had a very candid conversation about the seriousness of the allegations against him, which he vehemently denies. I told him that I agreed with his decision to step down as ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee at this time. I also told him that I encourage and expect him to fully cooperate with the ethics investigation. He said he would. Any decision to resign from office before the ethics investigation is completed is John's decision to make." The intensified pressure to resign follows a new report of sexual misconduct by Deanna Marr, the third former staffer to come forward. According to the Detroit News, Marr worked for Conyers from 1997 to 2005 and told the newspaper he inappropriately touched her on several occasions and tried to get her to share a hotel room with him to have sex. On Monday, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi issued a statement following a conversation she had with another accuser, Melanie Sloan, who worked with Conyers on the House Judiciary Committee. Pelosi wrote, and I quote, "I spoke with Melanie Sloan, who worked for Congressman Conyers on the Judiciary Committee in the mid-1990s. Ms. Sloan told me that she had publicly discussed distressing experiences while on his staff. I find the behavior Ms. Sloan described unacceptable and disappointing. I believe what Ms. Sloan has told me." Conyers' alleged behavior was widely known on Capitol Hill, according to Cokie Roberts, ABC political analyst and reporter for National Public Radio, who's covered Congress for over 2 decades.
The fact that people are willing to be public can change things. I mean, we all talked about for years.
A little bit at a time.
Well, you know, don't get in the elevator with him, you know, and every female in the press corps knew that, right? Don't get in the elevator with him. Now people are saying it out loud, and I think that does make it.
That is a change.
Congressman Conyers is being investigated by the House Ethics Committee and resigned as the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee on Sunday. The 88-year-old Dean of the House has been in Congress for 53 years. Joining me in this discussion today on the panel, we have Dr. Greg Carr, Chair of the Department of Afro-American Studies at my beloved alma mater, Howard University, Karen Maria Alston, founder and CEO of the Spectrum Circle, and Spencer Overton, President of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies. Well, I don't even know where to begin. I'm stunned. What do you think about John Conyers?
Well, I mean, I think a couple of things. Let's set aside for a moment the political implications. Everybody's playing politics. So this zero-sum game of Al Franken and John Conyers versus Roy Moore and Donald Trump, as if that's a political equivalency. We know it's not. Let's set aside that for a second. This is a black news show. Everybody has had this conversation about John Conyers differently. I take a little offense at Cokie Roberts acting like she's so high and mighty when in fact Congress, there are a lot of Congress people those things have been talked about.
Yeah.
Conyers probably needs to, resign. But it's intergenerational too.
But so here's my question, Spencer. Why is it that we are having a conversation about Conyers resigning his seat, but we're not having the same conversation about Al Franken?
Well, it does seem like we need to have that conversation. Some people have talked about that. You know, Al Franken has said, hey, I'm going to hang in there. And I think this is a tough conversation because, Ted Kennedy, lion of the Senate, right? But there certainly were some personal foibles. So certainly in terms of black folks, John Conyers has done a lot over time in terms of the Voting Rights Act, MLK holiday. I mean, he has been around, and he also has a huge network of alumni, right, who are all over and has given a lot of opportunities. But as the CBC has said, whoever perpetrates, sexual harassment, we can't basically give anyone a pass, right? I think another thing that I've heard in terms of CBC is that, Congressman Conyers has to make the decision about whether or not he is going to resign his seat. He's already stepped down in terms of the ranking piece, and I'm sorry, but this is not just Republican versus Democrat. This is internal in terms of the Democrats, right? There are people who want certain positions.
That's exactly right.
But like if we even taking the politics out of it, so the lawyer in me is saying, if the Congressional Black Caucus is having discussions with Conyers about resigning his seat, and we know that as African Americans, our tendency is to protect one another. there has to be more to the story, and there's something that we are missing. What do you think?
First of all, no one gives up power easily.
Exactly.
So part of this
and so quickly.
And so quickly. So part of this conversation too is the interdynamics that's happening inside of the Congressional Black Caucus, inside of the Democratic Party. John Conyers is similar to Ted Kennedy. He's an icon in Congress. He's been there for so long. He controls so many levers of how this institution works. So if he were to resign, that would create a vacuum and an opportunity in leadership. So there's some jockeying happening as well. Let's be honest. But I go back.
So is the feeling on the panel that you want him to resign? You don't want him to resign? What is the feeling?
For me, the Congressional Black Caucus calls itself the conscience of the Congress. Black people always take the lead in having a higher standard. But there are quadruple standards in this conversation. If there's going to be, as you said, if there's an equal standard, then let's start releasing this slush fund stuff you got in Congress. Because if they put John Conyers through this, we never demand that everybody else be subjected to it. We got a guy running for Senate now in Alabama who's dealing with young girls. You got another guy who's the president of the United States. Now he's saying that's not my voice on the tape. But black people will always be the first ones to fall on the sword. And then
like
we
in the movies, we're always the first person the first person to die. But I want to go back to the allegations because he's chairman of the Judiciary Committee.
Well,
we always say
not anymore. He stepped down from ranking.
He stepped down.
Right.
But what are the implications? Like we say we're a nation of laws. We respect the rule of law. We are supposed to respect black women. I keep coming back to what are the allegations that are going to come out because when there's smoke, there is fire. And then hand in hand with that, what happens because the discussion is being turned away from Roy Moore, and the feeling is always that we then end up with a society that paints all black men with the same broad brush.
Exactly right.
The other point of this too is Al Franken came out immediately, apologized, and admitted that he had done some things that he needed to apologize for. Congressman Conyers is adamantly denying that he's done anything wrong. And to your point, that drip, drip, drop of, hey, this happened to me too, it chips away at credibility. That's the challenge here. And we're in an environment now where Al Franken may be gone from the Senate and Roy Moore may be added to our Senate. So we, as a group, they need to come up with a standard, whatever that standard is, and they need to stand by that standard. So hopefully this conversation will keep us moving on another path.
And just, in terms of standards, Congress is exempt from many of the rules that apply to corporations, to other agencies. They intentionally exempt themselves, right? So this isn't just an issue of one office.
So what about the question of degree? So we talk about, like, I am someone who does not believe that what Al Franken allegedly did, what John Conyers allegedly did, at least for what we know right now, should in any way be equated with Roy Moore, who, for everything that we see, is a pedophile.
That's right.
So, what is the tactic? Like, what is Nancy Pelosi and what are other Democrats thinking when they turn the conversation away from Roy Moore, who might be walking into the Senate within the next couple of weeks, to John Conyers?
No, Spencer nailed it. This is a jockeying within the Democratic Party. They want that seat because if the Dems take control of the House, John Conyers becomes incredibly powerful over the judiciary. So the Democrats are positioning themselves to take a moral high ground so they can go after the Republicans in the next election.
So then who takes over for John Conyers?
What's the Congresswoman from New York who came out first? That's a signal. I forget who's the ranking member because now it's a white Democrat. I forget, but think about this. Many of the CBC, the older ones, Danny Davis, and they are the ranking members on their piece. And remember, the first allegation was leaked by a right-wing news organization. That's what started this ball rolling on Conyers. I'm with Spencer. Let it all out. But if you do that, it's going to be a whole lot of people have to leave Congress.
What about the women in the Congressional Black Caucus? What are you thinking they're going to do? Maxine Waters, all of the black women in the Congressional Black Caucus, Representative Moore, they are so strong in coming out for women's rights, anti-sexual harassment, anti-sex discrimination. Where do you think the chips are going to fall when we see them with regard to John Conyers?
First of all, I'd like to see the women get together and have a conversation. First off, the women of the Congressional Black Caucus. And then second of all, I think it's important to hear from the women who are making the accusations. the
I've got to interrupt you
aside.
for a minute because we've got breaking news that is absolutely stunning to me. We have just been told that Matt Lauer of the Today Show has been fired from the Today Show and NBC News for inappropriate sexual conduct, misconduct towards another woman.
Wow.
So, as you said, the drip, 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 drip.
But Michelle, don't miss this point because you made it earlier. Where is the voice of black women? I'm talking about black women staffers, black women who suffer all these, and we've seen a lot of these allegations, but black women, you know, I don't want to let's not get confused. Women is a broad category, but black women in that category, it's going to be interesting. I hope this will empower sisters to actually raise their voices because a lot of women suffer in silence.
Well, and you know, and I hope we, I hope we do. When the allegations came out about Clarence Thomas, so many African American women were sort of, you know, in purgatory, like not really knowing what to do because you believed Anita Hill, but you wanted to protect Clarence Thomas because he is a black man and because we know what the country does to black men.
But I think we're in a different place right now. I mean, the CBC is meeting on this. You've got people like Marcia Fudge, who's a former chair of the CBC, who is engaged in terms of this. So this isn't a scenario of denial or let's just tap it down. It's, hey, as a CBC, we need to step up to the plate and work through this. Now, it's not being done publicly, but my point is the conversations are happening.
Well, and it is about time.
Yes, it is.
When more, you can see a speech she gave about being the victim of domestic abuse on the House.
Yes.
It was riveting. It was so important. Black women had it right in the election. We overwhelmingly voted for Hillary Clinton, and I'm hoping that we will see the female members of the Congressional Black Caucus come out strong.
No, I'm thinking about black women in white spaces.
Yes.
For example, Strom Thurmond, notorious on Capitol Hill with black women. I'm thinking about these non-black, non-Latin Congress people and people in power who have preyed on black people, but I'm thinking specifically about black and brown women. And I'm saying, when I see the allegation of a black woman stand up against one of these folks, we don't know the context with Matt Lauer, that's when we'll know we're making progress. As long as it's in the black universe, yes, we have the moral standard, and it's always a double standard. But when we see black women finally able to stand, like Anita Hill, if Anita Hill had been a white woman, Clarence Thomas would not be on the Supreme Court.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we need black women to speak out, but then the question becomes, will anyone listen? And will anyone care?
And black men need to listen to black women.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. The role of black men in this. Supporting our women.
Supporting each other. We have to do that. We absolutely have. And in this case of Conyers, as Spencer is saying, I think that's really what's happening right now. It's intergenerational. These young cats, Cedric Richmond, Marcia Fudge, and them, I think they're going to probably weigh on Conyers, and we'll probably see him step down.
And men need to speak out on behalf of other men. You know, men
Meaning
see
what?
this. They see this. Men see this happen. It's not just.
They need to step up and say, "Dude, back off,"
and say, you know, wait a second. This isn't appropriate. We're at work. You know you shouldn't be doing these things because men see it. They just don't say anything. So there's also an opportunity for men, for African American men, to stand up and say, "Hey, bro. Nah, don't do that. Don't do that."
What's the culture that we're creating? Right.
What is the culture?
As men.
Thank you. I'm gonna move on to the next segment.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no. That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.